Hey folks, welcome back to another Dice Tower preview. I'm Mark, and today we're taking a look at Anarchy, which is brought to you by Westar Games. It's for 5 to 15 players, ages 14 and up, and games generally run about 60 to 120 minutes. In Anarchy, you rule a kingdom as a newly elected counselor, tasked with voting on events, resolving disasters, and managing the kingdom's 4 resources: gold, magic, knights, and culture. Anarchy is an event-based resource management game, putting a twist on the classic social deduction game. As your kingdom's newly elected council members, each of you will have a hidden objective and are tasked with balancing your self-interests with the kingdom's well-being. You must work together with your fellow council members to prevent your kingdom from falling into anarchy, while simultaneously plotting against each other to achieve your unique objective. But you need to be careful, because amongst your friendly council members are anarchists who are trying to sow dissent and throw the kingdom into anarchy. Anarchy is just a vote away. Trust no one. So first, let's dive into the cards. The objective cards are basically your character cards, and there's really 4 main characters, with the 5th being the anarchist, which we'll get to. But the 4 main characters are going to be your economist, your general, your sorcerer, and your cosmopolitan. Now, when you receive this card, you're going to keep it hidden. Like any good social deduction game, you really don't want anyone to know who you are. But you're going to have a biography on each of the characters, so you kind of have a feel of your character and who you're playing and so forth. You have your main objective, and all these characters are going to have basically the same one. You need to defeat the anarchists, and the anarchists need to defeat the council members. So it is this give and take back and forth as you try to figure out who is who. But you also have a second objective for these main 4 characters, where the second objective is going to be directly related to your specific type of character. So in this game, you have resources, like I said, and for the second objective of the sorcerer is to make sure that those resources, the magic resources, is at the highest when the game comes to an end. And so each of these council members will have their own type of resource that they're kind of attached to as their second objective. Now, the anarchists, and depending on player count, will determine how many anarchists are in the game. So, as you'd expect, you're going to have that moment in the game where everyone closes their eyes, the anarchists open their eyes and reveal themselves to each other, and they're going to try to work together in order to reduce one of the different resources to 0. That's how they're going to win the game, and that's simply all they need to do. They need to do that before they're all eliminated. And that brings us to resources and how you manage that. So it's really up to you. You can use a pile of cubes that you have, you can use a whiteboard, you can use your devices, your phone, your tablet, whatever makes sense for you. But you have 4 different types, like I said at the beginning. You've got gold, magic, you've got knights, and culture. So you'll have 10 for each of these, giving you a total of 40. And again, the anarchists have to reduce that to 0, one of those, to win the game. So how the game plays out round after round is through the different event cards, and you're going to be voting, and you're going to be adjusting the different types of resources based on these cards. But there's really 3 different types. You have one that's just an ability that gives you options to maybe change up what's happening. There's one here that, as an example, if you play it, you get to choose the A and B vote all on your own. So otherwise, it goes around the table and everyone's voting on the different options that are proposed to you. Now, also, the assassination card, when that comes out, then you're going to do a silent vote. You'll need a pad of paper, you write down your vote and pass it in, and then you'll find out who gets eliminated. So that is a key component. You never know what's going to happen in these games, and there's some interesting things that happens. If you were a council member that was assassinated, then you just get to jump back in and kind of team up with someone and help try to advise them and figure things out, which is kind of a neat aspect for sure. So you're not just eliminated. But if you're an anarchist, you're out of the game. So the assassination card is a disaster event card. There's also a charter event card. Now, these different types of events are going to cost you different types of resources, as well as giving you resources back. So some of them have a dual option. You'll spend some and get some. It just really depends on the card itself. I'm not going to show you all the cards because I really don't want to spoil. There's a lot of great story here, actually. This is one of my favorites, though. I love Dangerous Waters. It's going to cost a lot of resources, because either you're going to spend 5 nights, or you're going to spend 5 magic, which might be a giveaway on who's voting on what, depending on which resource is getting dwindled. And so you got to be mindful of that based on where you are and how much resources are left. But Dangerous Waters is fantastic. I love the story elements here. A sea monster runs rampant. A legendary sea monster named Ida is destroying shipping vessels off our coast. Fishers are afraid to enter the waters, and all trade with the kingdom has halted. So you have, again, the options A and B to solve or decide what to do with this sea creature. And again, you're gonna have to spend various resources based on which options you choose, which is part of how you see who might be who, like I said at the table. So through this voting and through the storytelling, you start to deduce who is what character, who might be anarchists, as those dwindling resources might dictate and kind of give you a clue who that is. But there's a lot of that give and take. You're going to have a lot of discussions around these cards and what's happening in the kingdom at the time. And really, you have, again, those two ways to win or lose. The anarchists win by depleting one of the resources of the kingdom, or you as the council members defeat those terrible anarchists. All right, folks, just a reminder once again, this has been a Dice Tower paid preview, and everything you've seen has been in prototype form. So keep a close eye on the campaign for any changes that still may occur. Now, with that said, this is definitely your social deduction type game with a twist. I love the resource management aspect of it. It really adds another element or dimension to the game. And like any good social deduction game, you're going to be having to delve into lots of conversation as you try to resolve these different event cards and spend resources wisely for the kingdom if you're one of the council members. But obviously the anarchists are going to have their own idea about things and how best to spend those resources for their benefit, trying to win the game by reducing them for sure. So there's a lot of back and forth, and I just like the twist that it gives and the special powers and abilities that the game also gives you. Each player is going to have 3 cards to work with on their turn, which is really fantastic. So you have lots of options. And also what's interesting, if you have 2 disaster cards in hand, you have to play one of them on your turn. So definitely forcing your hand at times to do various things. Some really interesting choices, and I just like games where there's lots of interaction. So folks, ultimately, if this looks like something of interest to you, I'm sure they'd appreciate your support. So I think that's it from me, and until next time, we'll see you at the table.